So today I don't have a funny little TikTok video to share with you guys. This is me responding to a comment on or from my previous video. And I think I'm going to start doing these like maybe once a month. I can come on here and answer questions. But today's question is, let me just read it really quickly before I get into it. Can you please do a video of the effects of having a father who never wanted to see you resting and always wanted you to be working hard? Now, that's a loaded question because, it's not going to be just a straight and direct answer simply because there is a lot to unpack here. And also, you all know me, I'm going to go back in history and I'm going to talk about this because I do not know what these other content creators are doing, but you all know that I approach topics with insight. I do research, I go way back in history and I do some historical research. And I also address a lot of these questions and these topics from a spiritual point of view. But today, I'm going to tell you that this behavior that you see from men is a result of thousands and thousands of years of conditioning, okay? Let's start from the top. Why does your father don't like to see you resting? And this is a situation that a lot of women experience in childhood. And I even have a girlfriend that had the same issue with her father. And actually, she's not the only one. Like, this is not a unique situation, ladies. It's not unique. That is why I choose to answer this question. Okay. So what we have to understand here and why this is happening is because men historically have always felt entitled to female labor. So if you live in a house where there's a man in the house and he doesn't like to see you resting, whether it be your husband or your father or your brother or whoever, you got to remember that we carry memory in our DNA. We carry memory in our DNA. And men's DNA remember a time when women was just property. Women were property and women were traded on the market like a commodity, like goods, y'all. So when people said that, or maybe you've heard people say that men treated women like cattle, they literally mean it. Women, cattle, and slaves were basically the same thing, property, goods that could be traded on the market. If we didn't get rights, if slavery wasn't abolished, if all this bullshit wasn't dealt with, basically women and slaves would be traded on the stock market today the same way they trade goods and services. Okay? So let that sink in and think about that for a minute. So men remember a time where women was super, super useful to them. We are still very much useful to them in this day and age. But back in those days, if men had a wife or two, that automatically made his life easy because a wife, and I spoke about this in a previous video, and I talked about this on my Patreon. I do not know why you all are not signed up yet. Hit the link in the description and sign up to my Patreon, ladies. And subscribe to this channel, of course. Like the video, turn on the bell notification. You all know what to do, okay? There used to be a time where when a man has had a wife, it made his life easier because now he had someone to do a bunch of work for him, work that he couldn't do on his own, so that he can focus on other things. And you see this dynamic in the corporate world, in business, and still to this day in marriages, because a marriage should be an equal partnership in the sense that you both bring value to the table and you both benefit equally. Okay, like a mutually beneficial situation, a symbiotic relationship. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be parasitic, but unfortunately, the relationship between men and women has been parasitic for a very, very long time. And men remember that in their DNA. So that's why subconsciously and instinctively, if they see a woman that is resting and not working or whatnot, they think that like subconsciously they think that, oh, I gotta get this, I gotta get her up. She needs to get up and do something. It's the same way that some people look at black people or some people look at their workers, okay? Most employers do not like to go into their place of business and see their workers relaxed. If you've ever worked for people, which most of us have. Okay, for example, I'm going to share my example. I used to work in the hospitality industry. And one time I was working at this restaurant. And this happened on more than one occasion, okay, ladies, because this was my experience working in the hospitality industry. And I was working at a restaurant. And there would be times where it was slow. We all had our appointed chores. And when you were done doing your chores at your job, like making sure that your section is clean and all that bullshit, extra shit that is not even in your job description, but they will make you do that shit anyways. You just sit there and you just wait for the customers. And on the days when it was slow, like maybe it's just past lunch and we just clean up and we're getting ready for dinner or whatnot, if the boss walks in and see a worker standing in the corner not doing anything, especially if you're standing in the corner talking to a coworker, and mind you, there's no customers, y'all. There is no customers. All your chores are done. Like when the employer came in and saw that, they will get so pissed off. And I'm using they because I've had more than one boss like this. They would be so pissed off, like they would be so annoyed, like what the hell? I am not paying you to stand wrong. You know what I mean? They would give you shit to do, like they would make you do extra work just because they hate to see you just sitting there doing nothing. And they will make you do work that is not even in your job description. This happens all the time. And this is one of the reasons why I never stayed more than a year at a job like that because I would just bounce. It's the same principle. Men are used to women working, working for them, doing things for them, making their life easy, and they don't like to see you doing nothing because men hate a lazy woman. And I know this, and I weaponize this shit, okay? Because they hate to see my lazy ass coming. One of the reasons why I would tell you ladies that do not think that, being able to cook and clean and do laundry and do all that stuff, don't think that's a flex. That is not a flex. Stop telling these men that you're good at cooking and whatnot. Because all you're going to attract is a damn user. Okay? And you're going to have children with that user. And you're going to be working your ass off. And when you have daughters, he's going to make your daughter work. And I'm assuming this is the type of situation that the person that asked this question is dealing with. These men will put you to work so that you can help them build their wealth. You can help them get to where they want in life in terms of status and finances. And all they get to do is just go to work and bring home a raggedy little paycheck and go play golf with their friends on weekends. Meanwhile, you are at the house cleaning, cooking, doing all this work. You all are filling out their application forms for their jobs. You're helping them making their resumes. This is how men see women. Men see women as a come up, and they do not care if you're their wife or their daughter. If you are related to them in some way, you have to be useful to them. Otherwise, they don't they don't give a shit. They don't value you. I'm gonna get into the effects of this, especially growing up in a household like this or dealing with a father like this, because the effects of this is not good. I'm gonna get into it, but again, like I said, I'm gonna go into history. So we have to consider the historical roots of male entitlement to female labor. Okay, because if you have a father that hates to see you resting, it's because he wants to see you working because he feels entitled to your labor. That's basically it. He doesn't believe that a woman should be resting, a woman should always be working because a wife is basically an indentured laborer. And you all can do this research on your own. You don't have to take my word for it, okay? So according to studies based on early human societies, the gender division of labor was different, but a woman's work was still very much valued. Okay, so for example, in hunter-gatherer societies, men typically were the hunters and women were the one that would gather the fruits and the berries and obviously care for the children and manage the community. Okay, as a woman, being able to manage stuff is something that we have been doing for a very, very long time. Management, delegation, etc. This is why men are not good managers. I don't care what you all say. You can come on here and argue all day long. I am sorry, men are not good planners and they're not good managers. And I'm telling you, your male manager more than likely it's his secretary that is doing the brunt of the work and he's getting the credit for it. So women manage the community. If you go into high society, you're going to see that the women are the ones that are managing communities and organizing all the social gatherings. It's usually the women. And if you sign up to my Patreon and you join my aspiring socialite tier, where I basically teach you ladies how to socialize correctly, you would remember that I said to you ladies, when you get into these communities, you always get good with the women, especially the matriarchs, because they are the backbone and the gatekeepers of those circles that you're trying to enter. So the roles were different, but they were equally valued. That's what it was like in hunter-gatherer societies. Now, there was really no patriarchy, okay? What caused patriarchy to come about was the agricultural revolution. Agriculture is the reason why we're here today. If you don't believe me, go and look it up. So the shift to agriculture, which brought in things like land ownership, it became central to, our survival. Okay. And men obviously were the ones that controlled the land and the resources because agriculture is hard work. Remember, there was no machineries and equipment and all this technology to help with all that agriculturing and plowing the land and all that stuff. The men were stronger than us physically, so they were the ones that was doing that type of work, and women were assigned to domestic labor. And with time, our labor was appreciated and valued less. So, as a result, as men were, controlling land and resources, women were seen as part of their property just to, ensure lineage and inheritance. That's basically what it is. So, agriculture is what facilitated all this bullshit that we're dealing with right now. When you look at people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, these men that are multi-billionaires, being a billionaire is not natural. No, I'm not going to sit here and argue about, wealthy people being greedy or whatnot. Like, listen, I don't give a shit. But I'm sure you've heard people on the internet say that there is no ethical billionaire. Well, technically they are right because it is unnatural. It is unnatural. And the only reason why this is happening is because of agriculture. Because in hunter-gatherer societies, there was no such thing as hoarding wealth, hoarding resources, land grabbing. All of that stuff was unheard of. People would move around. When resources get scarce, they get up and they move again. They kept moving. All right. And because of agriculture, women and were now forced to bear more children because you need extra hands on this damn farm. This was a rabbit hole that I went down a couple of weeks ago, and I've been shook ever since. Because I asked these questions like, how did patriarchy even come about? And like I was scrolling through, TikTok, and I saw a guy talking about this. And I had to go and do some deep research, y'all. And guess what? It's always a man. Men are very much aware of what's, well, not men, not all men, some men. But every time you hear these type of topics, usually men start these conversations first because I do not know what women are doing. For example, hypergamy. A lot of women did not know what hypergamy was until a couple years ago. Okay? But did you know that men were talking about hypergamy 10 years, 15 years prior to us knowing what it was? So you all need to get on them Reddit pages and follow these men and listen to what they're saying. You need to infiltrate the enemy's camp. Anyways, I digress. So women were increasingly seen as property because women were the ones that were supposed to bear the children and bear as many children as possible. So women were basically trapped in the homes. People were no longer moving and migrating. People settled in one place. And it's been like that up until the Industrial Revolution. And we still have this problem in 2025. Men see you, regardless if you're the daughter or what, as their property, as their indentured laborer. What the F are you doing resting? Obviously, not all men are like this, but if you're trying to avoid these type of men, then you have to start resting and you have to start being lazy. And I don't give a shit. Let them get angry with you. It's okay because Only then you would find someone that actually likes you for who you are and not just what you can do for them and the labor that you can bring to the table. So, women has always been seen as property, um, particularly in ancient civilization and in countries like, Egypt, Greece, Rome. All of these civilizations were the ones that brought this patriarchal system into the new world, including the colonizers. Okay, so these laws that they had were women were explicitly treated as property of their fathers or husbands. Marriage was a contract transferring ownership. That's the reason why your father walks you down the aisle. Stop with that raggedy ass tradition. My father did not walk me down no damn aisle because I am not his property. When I got married, there was no such thing as walking down the damn aisle. You all need to go and do some research and research these weird traditions. They're not fucking cute. So, when you look at societies like ancient Greece, women literally had no legal identity outside of their male relatives. And they were basically confined to domestic labor. And that's in ancient Greece. I mean, in Rome, because people, a lot of these men they love Rome for whatever reason. But in Rome, women slightly had more legal rights, but they were still expected to serve their families and husbands. And it's like literally the same today. We have all these rights, and we're still expected to do all this domestic labor. You go into work and you contributing in your household in whatever way you do. And you still have to work. You still have to perform unpaid labor. What are you doing sleeping at 10 a.m.? Wake up. That's what you have to put up with. Imagine that. And of course, religion really reinforced this unfair disadvantage. Religion reinforced the patriarchy. And this is why I don't understand women, like religious women, like I don't understand women that identify as Christian or Muslim or basically any one of these Abrahamic religions because y'all don't make sense to me. Okay, I'm not gonna argue with y'all. Okay, I mean, if that's your religion, that's your religion. All I'm saying is that I don't understand it. I don't get it. Because the Bible, that Bible that y'all love so much, basically frame women as secondary to men. They told you that God made you from some man's rib and said that you have to submit. That's what they told you. When in reality, women were the first humans. But you all don't want to talk about that, right? Because how is a man the first human? Who's giving birth? I'll wait. And for my Muslim followers, the Quran, is it the Quran? Quran? I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, y'all. I don't want to sound ignorant, but yeah, the Quran basically acknowledges men as the maintainers of women and basically owners of women. And in Hinduism, basically position women under male guardianship at all stages of her life. And then we move on to European feudalism, which is the Middle Ages, kept women economically dependent with laws restricting land ownership and requiring them to serve male family members. And then you wonder why men hate to see you resting and why men feel entitled to our labor because it's in their DNA. The men that we're dealing with right now are the descendants of these men that created these laws that restricted women from owning land and requiring them to serve their male family members. Then came the Industrial Revolution. And as we know, that happened in the 18th and 19th century. And it basically moved a lot of people out of their homes, productions out of their homes and into factories. Okay. And basically reinforcing the idea that men were breadwinners, quote unquote breadwinners. I'm using air quotes. While of course women continue to do unpaid domestic work. Okay, because domesticity is a cult. It's a 19th century Western ideology, which basically glorified women's domestic labor as their natural role while the men engage in real work. I just want to clarify, ladies, for those of you that don't know, women have always been working. Women have always been working, and women have always been working outside of the home. And it annoys me that people think that there was a time that women were not working and women would just stay at home wives or whatnot. We were always working, okay? What they're talking about is a small group of people, upper middle class people, after World War II in America, where the women were staying at home and the men were going out and working. And even then, the women that stayed at home, they still had housework. They still had chores. Women were always working, make no mistake. So the women that think that they're going to marry a wealthy guy and they will never have to work again, please stop being delusional. Before women were allowed to have bank accounts, they were working. And why were they working? Why were they working outside of the home? The reason why women were working outside of the home is so that they can supplement their husband's income. So everything you do is to make his life better. Women are a come up. That's why they make more money when they get married. That's why their life is easier. When they're married and they have someone at home, even if you're not at home, even if you're working outside of the home, you're out there working, you're still at home managing the affairs of the home, something that he's not doing. Did you know that in the 18 and 19, early 1900s, girls, they would send girls out to work so that they can send their brothers to college. Did you know that? Did you know that parents were sending their daughters off to work in factories, and some of these factories were really dangerous, textile factories, whatever you want to call it. These girls were working so that they can send their brothers to college. So men have always been benefiting from the labor of women. And then you wonder why they don't like to see you resting. Not even your own father want to see you resting. Your father wants you up in the house cooking and cleaning. That's what he wants you to do. It's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I had to come in here and say that. I can't finish this video without mentioning colonialism. And if you live in the West, especially like myself, you live in the Caribbean or South America or Central America, where there are a bunch of Black people, we were definitely affected by the colonizers. And what did the colonizers do? They exported these European gender norms worldwide, okay, worldwide, because almost the entire globe was colonized, y'all. And basically enforcing this patriarchal control over indigenous societies. And in these indigenous societies, women had more autonomy. They really did. So now we move on to the 20th century, and of course, women are fighting for their lives. Okay, women are fighting for the right to vote, fighting for the rights for property, fighting for their rights at the workplace. Then second wave feminism, where women were basically saying that, listen, yeah, we're challenging this bullshit idea of housework, childbearing, and emotional labor, where women are the sole providers of this stuff. And how can we, like, we are doing so much, ladies, okay? Because we are not only are we working outside of the home, we're starting businesses, we're making our own money. Some of us have multiple streams of income. We're creating our own wealth. We still have to deal with this bullshit. And I don't understand it. I hate to see couples, especially when both of them have jobs, arguing about who's supposed to do this and who's supposed to do the dishes or whatnot. Both of y'all have two incomes. Why don't both of y'all come together and hire domestic help? It don't make sense. Because if honestly, if both of y'all are working and both of y'all combined can't afford domestic help, girl, you should have stayed single. That's what I'm saying. Because I'm not doing that shit. So even today, ladies, when we finally have some financial independence, and mind you, it's not like this in every part of the world, because in other parts of the world there are women that are still dealing with the same issues, but with less rights. Some of them still can't have land and businesses in other parts of the world, okay? And some parts of the world is still very much archaic. These women are on their own journey, so good luck to them. Because not only are we performing emotional labor, unpaid labor, invisible labor in the homes, you're doing it at the workplace. Like, stop performing emotional labor at your job, ladies. Don't do that. Okay? And you gotta ask yourself why this mindset still persists. It's because a lot of women are still economically dependent on men. Some of y'all are dating because you're looking for someone to pay your bills and someone to save you from your financial hardship. Let's be real. When in reality, you should be saving yourself because no one is coming to save you. If you are a woman, you are connected to source, you can create. You can create the lifestyle that you want. You don't need a man to do that. If a man is coming into your life, he has to come to your life to add to what's already there and makes things easier. We have to break the cycle, ladies. We have to break this generational curse of women being used as indentured laborers by men. If you're getting that type of energy from men, you need to cut them off. If it's your father, you have to assert your boundaries or just leave. Because we still have these issues where girls are still raised to prioritize caregiving. You all are still buying your daughters dolls so that they can pretend to be a mother. Why don't you buy your daughter a toy spaceship or something like that so she can aspire to be a damn astronaut? Girl, I don't know. Or I don't know, buy her a business. You need to stop. And then, of course, that's the reason why, especially in places like America, a lot of women are still fighting for their reproductive rights and whatnot, because the men they remember, the memory is in their DNA. They do not know another way of life. They don't know. We have to set the tone. We have to set the example. We are the ones that have to make the change. Change starts with us. It starts with the individual. If men don't want to see you as an equal partner, or they don't want to see you as a human, someone with feelings and stuff like that, someone who gets tired just like they do, then you have to change. You have to stop dealing with these men. And guess what? Over time, they're going to breed themselves out and we're going to have better men. If we want to have better men, we have to stop rewarding bad behavior and we have to assert our boundaries. A lot of y'all are terrified and too scared to be single, so y'all will put up with that shit because y'all are desperate. Because a lot of these men are very much resistant to change. They are so resistant because they see gender equality as a loss, y'all. It's a loss. They see it as a loss. They see it as a loss rather than progress. Okay? And that's why we have the manosphere. And that's why we have the red pill and the passport bros. Because they do not know how to deal with this change. The change is inevitable. That's the historical part of this conversation. We're going to move on to the second part of this conversation. The effects. So what are the effects of having a father who never wanted to see you resting and always wanted you to be working hard? Let's talk about that. The effects of that is going to manifest in your relationships with men. What you're going to do, you are going to attract men that only see you as valuable if you bring in a lot to the table. And by a lot, I mean your money, your beauty, your youth, your womb, and of course, emotional labor and invisible labor. You're going to feel like you don't deserve to be loved or to be treated well if you don't do. Okay, doing is masculine. A lot of women feel like if I don't cook, if I don't clean, if I don't do emotional labor, or if I don't do this, or if I don't work really hard, no one is gonna love me. That's what your father thought you, because that's how he saw you. No, is it his fault? Technically, not really, because that is thousands of years of indoctrination. His father believed that, his father's fathers, and you can go all the way back to the bloodline. Okay? It's indoctrination. That's basically what it is. And indoctrination is something that affects generations. If you ever wondered why a lot of Black people are afraid of, deep waters or are afraid of snakes and stuff like that, just go and do some research. Go down that rabbit hole and you'll find out. You'll find out because it's generations. That shit is passed through your blood, your DNA. And it only takes one person to break the family curse or break the generational curse. So it's going to take you to break that curse. You have to stop entertaining men that only values you for what you can do for them. You deserve to be loved just for existing. I made a video about that. Go back and watch that video. Okay, these same men have dogs, they have pets, and they love their pets unconditionally. Some of these men love their cars more than they love you. Why is that? Because to them, you are not valuable unless you're doing something for them, unless you're making their life easy, unless you're being their secretary. They start a business, you in the business working for free. Okay, that's why I'm not mad that, women like Mackenzie Bezos walked away with that much money. I mean, the men in the red pill community, they were so mad. They were acting like if it was their money. They were like, oh, she don't deserve all that money. Can't believe she got like $500 million or whatever. Like, they were really out here foaming at the mouth. And they hate men that actually love women. They hate men that love their wives, even if their wife doesn't cook. Why do you think they hate, what's his name? Your Sierra's husband. Is it Russell Wilson? Why you all think they hate him and they call him a simp? Men that love women and women that see women as equal and see women as humans, see women as people with feelings and not just a fucking work mule. Those men are simps. Isn't that funny? What the effect of having a father that doesn't like to see you resting, you're going to attract men exactly like your father. You're going to, and even if you don't want to, even if you attract a good guy, guess what? You're gonna bring that dysfunction into that relationship where you feel like, oh, if I'm not working hard, if I'm not doing too much, if I'm not asking him how he's doing, if I'm not putting him first, you're gonna think that he's not gonna love you if you don't do these things. And a lot of black women think that they're not gonna be loved if they're not out here helping men, saving men, giving them money, letting them drive your car. If you don't feel like you're going to be loved, if you don't provide for something, or you're not making his life easy, something is wrong. Something is wrong. You have to break the cycle. You have to stop entertaining men like that. When I met my husband, I told him I can't cook. I can cook. I believe every adult, regardless of male or female, regardless of gender, should be able to cook because how the hell are you surviving out here and you can't cook? God forbid there's an apocalypse and your ass can't cook, male or female. So I believe as an adult, it's your responsibility to learn to cook something. I told him that I couldn't cook. Then he asked me to move in with him. I told him that I'm not going to live with a guy that I'm not married to. He asked me to get married. I'm like, listen, I'm not Martha Stewart. I'm not a domestic goddess. Don't expect me to be in this house cooking and cleaning because that's not going to be me. And guess what? He still married me. And to some people, that is unheard of. Like that has some people shook. Like, oh my God, a man married you and you can't cook and clean? You're not doing all this labor? I remember when people told me that I was never going to get married because I was quote unquote lazy. And a lazy woman is basically a woman who is not out here performing labor for others. That's basically what a lazy woman is. If you don't come into my house and you don't decorate my house and you don't clean my house and you don't cook for me, you a lazy bitch. You're not wife material. The effects of having a father that doesn't like to see you resting is going to manifest in your relationship. You're going to be a people pleaser. And it's not just in relationships, in romantic relationship. It's going to manifest in all aspect of life and when it comes to human interaction. You're going to be at your job, people pleasing, doing too much, volunteering to work extra, going above and beyond, doing other people's work for them because you do not feel like people are going to love you and appreciate you unless you're out here doing the most. Do less, ladies. It's okay to be lazy sometimes. It's okay to sleep in till, I don't know, 11 or whatever. I don't know. It's okay to have a slow life. You don't have to be running around like a headless chicken, giving away your labor for free. If you are performing any kind of labor, you need to be compensated. Because men are not out here working for free. Men always ensure that they are compensated for their work. They always ensure that they are recognized for their work. Men are not doing invisible labor. If a man is doing anything for you, he's doing it because he knows that he's going to get compensated in some way or the other. So at the end of the day, ladies, learn how to be compensated for the work and be recognized for the work and be appreciated for the work that you do. You have to have this mindset. Because if you don't, and you don't have to, listen, you don't have to listen to me. But if you don't, you're going to perpetuate this cycle. Okay, your father taught you that you are not loved or valuable unless you work hard. That's what he taught you. So this lifestyle, like hypergamy and soft life and whatnot, you're gonna struggle to manifest the outcome that you're trying to manifest because of that blockage. So if you still believe that you have to work hard and you can't rest and resting in your feminine feels uncomfortable, then you have a lot of inner work to do. So ladies, if you still struggle with this, y'all can send me a DM on my Patreon or on Instagram, and we can arrange to have a one-on-one session. I still do consultations, by the way, just so you all know. And just know that, if you message me to get a consultation, you may not be able to get me on the same day because sometimes I do be booked. So if you want to talk and you want to get over these blockages, send me a DM and book a session, ladies, a one-on-one session. I can help you. The cycle has to end, ladies. It has to end. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was enlightening. And I hope it makes you understand why things are the way they are. But it doesn't have to. You have the power to rewrite your script because this is your life. And the fact that you're watching this video tells me that you were sent here to break generational curses. You are not like your other family members. You're not like regular people. You are different. Okay. You basically like a chosen one. I mean, that sounds kind of corny, but you know what I mean. But anyways, thanks for listening.